Chapters 214 to 218 were some of the most fire chapters in the Kengan series. We got to see two of the biggest legends in lore duke it out, and in just 4 chapters Shen established himself as not only the strongest, but quite possibly the strongest of all time. In this video, I'll be breaking down just what makes this fight one of the best fights in the series and its impact on the Kengan community. But before we get into that, don't forget to like and sub, as I will be doing more of this analysis content in the future, and I do cover Kengan chapters regularly. So yeah, without further ado, let's carry on with the video. The first and most important part of this fight is establishing just how powerful Mokako is. From the introduction of his character in Kengan Ashura, where he is called a one-man army, able to defeat people from the inside with overwhelming power, it's important to understand that the people from the inside are a lot more dangerous than normal people, as they are made up of terrorist armies and criminal organizations. In other words, Mokako was strong enough to take some of the most dangerous people in the world and treat them like fodder, which is a pretty good starting point for his power. In the first fight we see Mokako in Kengan Omega against Ogi, in which he manages to take out Ogi pretty fast. I've done a video discussing just how strong Ogi and his partner Tenjin were, and it's actually quite powerful, as Ogi and Tenjin both hold the same rank as Naiden did, being direct subordinates of the Worm Head. As a reminder, Naiden was one of the best fighters in Purgatory, was able to completely dominate Ryuki in a fight, with almost saying Naiden could outright kill Ryuki even if Ryuki was trying to kill him. And Naiden's raw strength is directly compared to Julius, Wakatsuki, and Ryan. The fact that Ogi and Tenjin hold the same rank is actually impressive, and we see both Mokako and Rei comment on how powerful they were, even if they managed to defeat them. The only reason you would think Naiden is stronger than them is because of the fact that Naiden simply has a lot more feats and statements around him, whereas Tenjin and Ogi just don't seem as impressive. However, I think it's reasonable to say that Naiden, Tenjin, and Ogi are all relative, even if Naiden is the strongest of the 3 direct subordinates. All of this to say, Mokako being able to take out someone that powerful that quickly is really impressive, even if he took some damage. But that's not even the craziest part, as later on, Mokako establishes himself as one of the strongest in his fight against Oma, Koga, and Retsudo. This fight takes place in chapter 212, where Mokako is about to face off against Oma, Koga, and Retsudo in a 3v1. You would think that Mokako would be in a massive disadvantage at this point, with Koga being relative to Ryuki after defeating Ryuki, Retsudo, who is stated to be on the level of the Fang of Metsudo, or at least strong enough to become the Fang of Metsudo, and Oma, which I will get to later. However, the fight proceeds like this. The first one to charge in is Koga. Mokako manages to put Koga off balance, with Oma saving Koga from getting hit by Mokako's next blow, which Oma states would have killed Koga instantly. Then Retsudo goes in next, and the exact same thing happens, with Mokako getting Retsudo in a position to finish him off, with Oma saving Retsudo. This brief interaction shows that Oma is the only one who is even able to keep up with Mokako, with Koga and Retsudo being more of a hindrance than helpful, showing just how dangerous Mokako is, being able to fight these 3 and turn their advantage against them. Eventually, however, Oma gets to go 1v1 against Mokako, and though most of this fight is off screen, we get to see how the fight between them was going, with Oma saying that he could not find any opening, or rather that Mokako wasn't showing any opening. Oma, by the way, is the same guy who beat Lo Long. Lo Long has 422 wins in Purgatory. Lo Long is directly compared to Ryan, not only in his fight with Oma, but also in his very own character profile. Lo Long one-shot Toa in a flashback. Carlos thought Lo Long was unbeatable. Nikoto said he felt higher pressure from Lo Long than he did from Agito. Lo Long also has a 10-pack, not a 6-pack, a 10-pack. You get the point. The hype, the statements, and the performance of Lo Long is off the charts. He is beyond a shadow of a doubt one of the strongest characters in the series, and Oma is not only relative, but he also has beaten Lo Long. The same Oma that cannot find a single opening on Mokako. If all of this isn't enough to convince you that Mokako is one of the strongest characters we have seen in the series, here is Oma's own testimony on Mokako. He called himself a fraud, but his power is unfathomable. It's not just that he's strong. I don't want anything to do with him anymore. I don't know about this connector, but the old man's a monster in human form. After all of that, you would think that Mokako would at least be on Shen's radar of power. Surely, Mokako being on the same level as some of the strongest in the verse means that he can at least put up a fight. Wrong. The fight actually goes like this. The fight starts off at Mokako's hideout. It's important to know that Mokako has been waiting for Shen to come to him, and as we'll see later, Mokako has made plenty of preparations for Shen. Mokako starts the fight using gauntlets that are laced with metal pellets to try and land at least one hit on Shen to do some damage, with after that Mokako trying to finish Shen off with a knife. However, even though the attacks come close to hitting Shen, none of them land, and Shen is even able to launch a counterattack, forcing Mokako to retreat into the house. While hiding there, Mokako is stunned that Shen could dodge all of those surprise attacks, and even states that a feat of that level goes beyond pre-initiative. This is because pre-initiative is only really effective if you know what your opponent can do, as this ability doesn't allow you to see the actual future, but rather predict it. This means that Shen knew everything Mokako was about to do before he did it, which is impossible given that he had so many surprise attacks, or that Shen is using a technique that is, as Mokako said, beyond pre-initiative. Shen then compliments Mokako on the amount of preparation he did and even gives him a few points on how he could have done better, as he looks for Mokako. However, behind one of the wooden walls, Mokako launches his next surprise attack by piercing through the wall with a spear to get to Shen. This is actually a brilliant idea, as Shen is right up against the wall or door. However, Mokako is shocked when Shen blocks his attack. It's important to understand that Mokako is simply bigger than Shen and has a lot more muscle than Shen. Shen is even surprised that Mokako is this powerful and says that he must be duping to be able to have such strength at that age, which is about 100. Mokako himself also confirms that his strength he has right now is actually higher than the strength he had in his youth, meaning that this version of Mokako is actually the strongest version of him. However, not only is Shen able to block Mokako's spear, he blocks it with only 2 fingers. Mokako thinks Shen must have superhuman syndrome, as it is the only thing that could explain what's happening, but Shen quickly dismisses the idea and says that he's simply using the principle of force, meaning that he's targeting the best point to block an attack with the least amount of effort, which is something Shen says anyone can do. Eventually, the spear breaks from the force applied by Shen and Mokako, with Shen complimenting Mokako on being one of the very few to manage to even get him to block an attack. Shen then says that he'll give Mokako the chance to kill him, But in order to do that, he has to limit his own power, essentially nerfing himself. Shen does this by relocating his tendons, suppressing his muscle output, limiting the movement of his very own joints, bringing his neurotransmitter speed down to its lowest, and shutting down some of his brain circulations. This shows that Shen has an incredible amount of control over his body. But Mokako notices something is off. Even though Shen said he's limiting himself, Shen seems to be getting much more dangerous to him. Mokako then realizes that it means that Shen, before powering down, was just so much more powerful than Mokako that Mokako couldn't even perceive the danger he was in. Meaning that, indeed, right now was his best shot at killing Shen. The fight turns into more of a brawl at this point, with Shen managing to land 3 hits on Mokako and Mokako doing some damage on Shen. Mokako is stunned by the fact that after 3 hits from a heavily nerfed Shen, he's actually getting wobbly, or groggy as he put it. After this, Mokako pulls out one of the Long Clan's secret techniques as a surprise attack, which seems to land on Shen, but Mokako screams in pain afterwards, almost as if the attack had landed on him instead and not really on Shen. Shen says he's now had enough and wants to finish the fight off, but loses some of the power in his legs. Mokako takes the opportunity to slice him down with a katana. The reason Shen's legs seem to have lost power is because Mokako had filled most of the house with a toxic gas. The only area that didn't have this gas was the one Mokako was standing on, showing just how much Mokako was prepared. While Shen does block the katana slash with his hands at first, Mokako then follows it up by applying more force using the Nico style Adamante Kata Indestructible. But even that is not enough, with Shen revealing that he doesn't really breathe because breathing makes you age. In other words, the toxic gas really isn't that effective. With that, Shen begins to overpower Mokako and lands a kick to his face, pinning Mokako against the wall. Shen then goes in for the kill, but Mokako tries stalling by threatening Shen with Ryuki's life. And when that doesn't work, he tries stalling a bit more by asking why Shen wants Ryuki so badly, especially when Oma is also his clone. This is when we get one of the biggest revelations in the series. Shen gives a hint to Mokako by saying Oma isn't his clone. And though Mokako is first confused, he manages to put things together in the end, just like Fei Wangfang did before he died. They are 2 connectors. With that, Shen kills Mokako, ending the entire confrontation. The fight between Shen and Mokako is one of the most hype, surprising, and important fights in the Kengan series. It shows a new ceiling of power that's set by Shen Wulong, and the idea that there is a second Shen or connector that is just as powerful is especially surprising. If you were to ask an average Kengan Omega reader who was the strongest in the series before this fight, then they might answer by saying probably Shen Wulong. Now it's not even a question. Shen is the strongest character in the Kengan series, and it's not even close. That's it. That's the video. Don't forget to like and sub if you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more of this type of analysis content, then yeah, sub, like, add comments, all that fun stuff. But until next time, take it easy.